Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday morning, February 10th, and it's time to go on the record. For Bay State Republicans, just 3 new members to a legislature dominated by Democrats. Can the South Shore's Allison Sullivan gain traction and help stop a pattern of scandalous behavior on Beacon Hill?
I will get it built.
President Trump's call for a wall meets a determined resistance in white. Is there any room for a breakthrough on the border?
Another possible government shutdown is looming. We get reaction.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to OTR. Along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wool, I'm Matt Harding. Our guest this morning is State Representative Allison Sullivan. She is a Republican from Abington, representing the 7th Plymouth District. She was elected to her first term last November. Her dad, Michael Sullivan, also held the seat at one time. Allison is a graduate of Suffolk University and is currently working on her law degree, and she fell asleep during the Super Bowl.
Oh, don't tell.
I'm outing her already. I was going to say, tell us what happened. You fall asleep during the Super Bowl.
And they win.
Every time you fall asleep.
Every time I fall asleep. So
okay.
I got to keep the trend going.
So next February, you better be sleeping on February 2nd.
Yep, exactly.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Can't believe you added
that.
Well,
Well, I can understand,
But you're even, not only are you have the same seat as your father, but you've got the same actual seat in the House chamber. Do you not?
Oh,
seat
do
number
you?
24?
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting.
You didn't find any of your dad used gum under the
table? No, I
actually
looked. I opened the drawer to see if he etched his name in there, but he didn't. I asked him.
So you're part of a freshman class, not only here in Massachusetts, but nationwide in Congress, that are not afraid to speak up, which is one of the reasons why you and other freshman legislators were inviting here on OTR. Last week, the Massachusetts House refused to ban non-disclosure agreements often used in sexual harassment cases.
Correct.
Do you believe that this is the right decision?
So, unfortunately, we only had a matter of hours to actually digest what was being proposed. The thought that it would hurt the victims, because I'm all about victims' rights and thinking about victims before any making rash decisions. I was able to briefly speak to some people that work within victim rights, and after discussing with some other people, the thought of the non-disclosure orders and agreements is maybe hurting victims in cases of sexual harassment up at the State House. I want to look more further into it to really make a stance on whether or not I'm going to support or not support the non-disclosure orders and agreements.
So right now you're on the fence. You don't know
whether they should
be forced to be made public or not.
Correct. I originally voted against the amendment with the thought that it was going to actually hurt victims in the State House.
But you're coming around to another point of view.
Potentially, yes.
Question 2 is similar. There's a brewing, someone called simmering sexual harassment scandal against a House member. Paul McMurtry is accused of groping a freshman legislator. So first of all, it was at an event. Let me ask you, were you at the event?
I was at the event.
Did you witness it at all?
No, I did not. No.
And the behavior and the charges and what is your reaction to that?
It's very disappointing that something like that potentially happened. As a freshman going into a house where there's a lot of people that have served, even when my father served, so they know the system. I think that if something did happen, there should be an independent investigation going on to make sure that if it did, then the necessary charges are taken up and it's handled the correct way. And if it didn't happen, that we move forward in making sure that we protect everybody.
Some say that the investigation is taking a little bit too long, that, something needs to be said, something needs to be done now. Do you agree with that, or are you okay with the timetable?
So I don't know exactly what's going on with the investigation. I'm not privy to that information. I do know that...
Should you be?
I think at a certain point it should be an independent investigation. I don't think that the Speaker of the House should be leading the investigation on charges that are against someone that's very close to him. I think it needs to be a non-biased party or group or commission that does the investigation.
And not just the Speaker, but the members also as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We're asking other members to dissect what potentially happened or didn't happen, and I don't think that's right. I think it should be, like I said, and I keep going back to it, an independent body that does it.
Have you had private conversations with members who did witness this event?
No, I have not.
So you have no personal knowledge or no information from anyone directly involved with this? Okay, let's talk about criminal justice. It's one of your big issues. There's an attempt right now and nationwide to scale back prosecution of what they consider to be lesser crimes. Suffolk District Attorney Rachel Rollins, who was our guest here on OTR just a few weeks ago, made that case. You come from a family of law enforcement officers. What's your response to that?
So I think I understand the reasons behind it, and I can see what the potential outcome would be. The argument is that our jails are overpopulated, and they're not. We do a lot of deterrence. We do not only the drug courts, the juvenile courts, but we don't want to put labels on people. We don't want to make them in a position that they can't get jobs in the future for a mistake that they happen. But the way the criminal justice system is set up and the way that our criminal justice reform went is to benefit in the sense of young people that make a wrong decision once or twice, and trying to gear them towards a different route in life instead of a career in criminal activity. I think that we need to be very conscientious of the fact that in order to really address what's going on, we need to have deterrence, and ways to do that is to have them come before the court, and the court be able to deter them to somewhere else and have this system in place where we are addressing the problem within.
What about marijuana arrests from the past? Should those be eradicated from people's records now that marijuana is legal?
I think that's a case-by-case, stance right there, because it all depends. Is it a simple possession where the person's just using, or is it distribution? I mean, we're talking about two different elements there.
And if it's distribution, you feel that it should remain, even though right now
Yes.
it's apparently, marijuana is legal in Massachusetts.
I do.
And let's talk about another issue that you're hoping to pursue aggressively. School funding. Is it fair to say that school funding is something that you would like to pursue aggressively? The governor is making one of his big priorities of this term. So do you think it's possible to make big investments without cutting other programs or hiking revenues?
So if I understand you correctly, I think there is definitely money to be spent towards our education program. I think Chapter 70 needs to be funded, and I believe that, unfortunately, like towns like Whitman, Abington, and East Bridgewater, the ones that I represent, they're seeing a lot of these unfunded mandates that are becoming on the backs of the people within the towns. And the state's mandating them to do certain things like, transportation is supposed to be 100% reimbursed, and it's not. So I believe that there's money in our revenue, in our budget, to be able to support that.
So you think you could find it without hurting programs or
I believe so.
hiking any other revenues or adding any other cost to people, right?
I believe so.
You believe the pie can be cut more differently,
I
right?
think it can.
Yep.
The governor, however, wants to raise revenues for specific programs. For example, for education, he's talking about accelerating the sales tax in order to accommodate. Can you support that? Would you support accelerating the sales tax? So if it meant more money for education.
So I ran on no new taxes. I ran on spending the money more wisely on what we have. So right now, I can't say that I can support any new taxes.
He's also talking about other new taxes for other programs,
Correct.
real estate transactions, pharmaceutical companies that manufacture opioids. I know opioids is one of your big issues. You've already filed a bill on it. Do you think that's reasonable to tax, for example, pharmaceutical companies that manufacture opioids?
I haven't read that language. I'd like to look at that language more to see exactly where the tax is going, who's paying that tax, and
Could you support it even though you ran on a no new tax pledge?
It would depend. It would definitely depend on where it's geared towards.
What about like real estate transactions? He's talking about a new transaction.
So I actually sat down with the governor. We had a caucus with him, and we discussed the new taxes, and we had conversations on what it would do and what it would provide. Right now, it's flashy in the sense of it's only a 2% increase, and that it's on a real estate, and it's on the seller that has to accommodate that fund, and it hasn't been changed in years. But I want to see where it goes before I come out and say that I could support it, because like I said, I ran on no new taxes and spending the money wisely. We have funds that go towards our roads and our infrastructure. We're just trying to create something new on creating more money, but not spending what we have wisely. So
it sounds like you have a little bit of wiggle room in your mind, but you haven't made any decisions yet.
Correct.
On specific targeted taxes for specific programs. Okay.
You ready for the OTR pop quiz?
I'm never ready for a pop quiz. I didn't like pop quizzes in school. I definitely don't like them now.
You can keep going on. You got anything else you want to say? That's good. Here it is, real fast. Okay, that's it. I can't show you anymore. All right. Question 1. It's time for the pop quiz. The 7th Plymouth District includes the towns of Abington, East Bridgewater, Whitman, and Whitman. And that is where we have pulled these trivia questions from. Question 1. During the Civil War, the factories in the town of Abington provided nearly half of this vital piece of equipment to the Union Army, and it'll be a multiple choice around the screen. Was it shovels? Was it bullets? Was it footwear back in the Civil War?
Well, Brockton, I know, was like the shoe factory. I'll go with C.
Excellent. That was brilliant deduction. That is the answer. Footwear. Brilliant. That was very good. Question 2. We move on to East Bridgewater. What is the mascot for East Bridgewater High School? And we're going to give you multiple choices here so you can see on the screen. Is it a Panther? Is it a Viking? Is it a Ram?
Gee, I have to go with Vikings.
You're 2 for 2.
Oh my goodness, her guessing is doing darn good.
We thought the Ram might be a curveball, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, she slept through the Super Bowl, so whatever. We'll be right back.